Good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. We continue the Book of the Divine Mother, Book 3, Canto 3, The House of the Spirit and the New Creation. Beginning, I believe, the fourth line from the top.
Yeah, we can
If you wish.
begin from there.
Good.
So the mother gave this message that a new world based on truth. So, of course, everyone has their own idea of truth. One of the idea of truth is it's a harsh, bare reality. So if you start with that, then you start cutting, eliminating everything. Neti neti. But when we read here the description of the truth world, we discover it's one with harmony. It's a very harmonious whole. So there is a message of the mother where she says, truth is supreme harmony and delight.
Yes.
It's not a harsh, bare reality, but it's a harmony based on oneness, which is the core of love. So we find that, and that's what makes it very interesting and novel. And also, what is that oneness? What is that love? All this comes out beautifully. So how we can create that, some semblance of that here upon earth, which is our aim and aspiration. None was apart, none lived for himself alone. Each lived for God in him and God in all. Each soulness inexpressibly held the whole. So commune living is a training in that. It's not an end, but it's a training. It's a means to discover this. Of course, one can discover it even, going within. But when we begin to live in a community, we begin to discover it in very simple, practical ways. For example, in the ashram, we have many departments. So one can be doing this work, that work. One may be, tilling the soil, digging the garden. Another may be washing the utensils. Third one may be writing poetry. A fourth one may be, teaching in the school. Another one music. But if you ask all of them, why are you doing it? So they will all say either we want to serve the mother or out of love for the mother. This is the original sense. Now what it becomes over a period of time, how many hours of work you are putting in and what you are getting, that's a distortion. But originally, when you read, there is a very beautiful book, Life in the Sri Aurobindo Ashram by Narayan Prasad. It's a must read for those who want to know what ashram means and meant. What it becomes is a different story. Over a period of time, it becomes, changes. Like any communal life, it goes through many transmutations. That's okay. But its original sense is that there is a life centered around the one. So nobody was doing it for oneself. Whereas in outside life, when we read mother's dream,
Yes.
it's not like I am writing poetry to become famous. I am teaching in the school because I am a bigger man than, more respectable as a teacher or a doctor than as somebody washing utensils. None of these distinctions hold valid when we do her work and center around her. Or I am doing this job because I can get more money. None of these. As long as these motives are there, one-upmanship, there cannot be a new world or world based on truth, whatever hard we may try. We may make the most perfect, outwardly practical, moneyed place, but that means nothing. So it is the centering which is important. So nobody lived for himself, but lived for the one. And therefore, everything was connected in a wholeness. That is the beauty. When somebody asks Sri Aurobindo that working in dining room, that I don't want to work in dining room. I have come to serve you, not the sadhaks. So Sri Aurobindo said, by that logic, I am also serving the sadhaks. When I write letters or write this training you get here.
Yes.
Of course, if one stops only with the mechanical aspect, but the real sense is this inner training.
We should mention Oroville.
Yes, of course.
Because Mother's extension of this collective experience is especially valid in Oroville.
Yes, but the moment we put into different department, then walls, then there is a problem, which is what has to go, and it cannot go by any outer means. At least not in this place, because here the only true solution will work. Same with India. It cannot go by any outer means. It will go with only the true solution. If you try to have adjustment, outer tolerance, this, that, it won't work. Debate, dialogue, discussion, it won't work.
I have a story of the dining room
Yes.
that you may like. I
Yes,
think you
of
know it
course.
already.
Which one?
But it's the one where Huta is doing the spoons and she wants to do the plates. And the gentleman who does the plates says to her, I don't do too well in my consciousness with spoons, so I have to do the plates. And he didn't let her do the plates.
I have a similar experience on a different note. So whenever I used to come here for few days means 20-25 days, so I would take up work in dining room because that's the most easily available, and washing section because they always need people. So I used to think that what we can do is wash the plates, but consciousness washing only you can do a lot. So this was the story of Kevat and very close to my heart. So I remember the first day I took up the plates and started with as if I'm doing something very nicely well. The boy next to me, he said, that's not how it is done. Air Force doctor, you are going to teach me. So then I realized, oh pride, thou hast many names and masks. I said, forget the Air Force and forget the doctor, you teach me. Oh, it was music and poetry to see him work. He took 5 plates and when he put in the water, I remember that scene, I can't conjure it. So all the outer side of all the plates opened up while the inner side he held with his hand. I can't imagine till date how he could do it. Then I realized it's not about the technique but the consciousness in the hands. He didn't tell in so many words. He just taught me how to do it outwardly. But I got the clue from there that it's not the technique but the consciousness. If you are in the right consciousness, technique and method will develop. So that is the whole thing, and it teaches you, it trains you. You're not doing this for this or that, but only to serve her. Then another very interesting thing that also we see here, their oneness was not tied to monotone. It showed 1,000 aspects of itself. So we think of oneness as sameness. And it's a common flaw. Someone asked Sri Aurobindo this letter, where he says, I see that the Divine Mother deals differently with different people. She gives different time, her way is different. So, but how can it be? Because divine has to be an example of equality and oneness. So there Sri Aurobindo speaks of this.
Yes.
That it is a absurd way to look at it. She deals with each one based on the law of truth unfolding in each one, which is different. It's not the same. In one person, she would say, Sri Aurobindo himself gave so much leeway to Dilip Kumar Roy, going out, whatever, 100 things, experiment. To another person, he would say, sit tight, stay here, don't go out. So it's not monotone. And each one in different ways, Now it's very difficult to even imagine that one can serve the divine only through music. This bhava was coming to me today, that how about, if I don't do anything? Just sing your name and enjoy and be in that ecstasy. It's so ecstatic, So, but today, it is impossible to convince anyone that just by singing the Lord's name, you are actually, working and helping the community. Now it has come, from the divine to community, what you are doing for community. But actually, everything that expresses the divine urge within, whatever you may be doing, is helping the whole world move towards that. And that's what that oneness is not tied to monotone. In 1,000 ways. So that is the beauty of the supramental world. Its calm, immutable stability, upbore on a changeless ground, forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude. Now look at it. So what was the ground of consciousness on which everyone stood and worked? And that ground of consciousness here is the mother. Or if if you want to put it in more secular way, the supramental truth, if that is appealing. And look at this wonderful line. A boar on a changeless ground, forever safe, compelled to a spontaneous servitude. Nobody was compelling anyone that you have to do this, you have to serve. It came spontaneously. Unchanging ground, forever safe. So if your job was taken away, it didn't mean that, doesn't matter. That ground is there. It happened a couple of years back. One of the sadhikas was telling me that, this problem took place and now she is not given any work. So all kinds of things. She was going through difficult time. I said, what is your problem? You be happy. You can go to Samadhi, pray. You are part of the ashram. Enjoy. What's there? The divine wants us to be happy. Sometimes he takes away the work. And there is a beautiful passage of Sri Aurobindo, the delight of works. And there he says, the sword has a joy in the hiss and the play. The sword has a joy when it is not used but lying in the side. The sword has a joy when it is broken and thrown aside. That equal joy discover. That equal joy can only come when we have discovered this ground within. But if the ground is based on how much work I am doing and what, my position, prestige, then one is forever insecure. So step by step, everything is being beautifully revealed to us. The ever-changing, incalculable steps, the seeming reckless dance's subtle plan of immense world forces in their perfect play. Now this is, the ever-changing events, circumstances, people. Here we are on that fast-forward evolution, so it happens. So it can be sometimes very disorienting. But how to keep orienting ourselves? By the mother. She is there. Whatever may change outwardly, but she is there. That doesn't change. That is, he says, even if you go far, very far, far away from Pondicherry, you may be in France or other side of the world, I am with you. Even when you sink, I don't stand on the shore, but I sink with you. Now, when we develop that consciousness inside, then this state comes spontaneously. These are all states of consciousness that the ever incalculable dance steps. Today is something you are sure, tomorrow it is just taken away from you. Incalculable. Still, Krishna is dancing with you. He has not abandoned you. So at the end of the day, what else matters? And he says, the seeming reckless dance's subtle plan. It looks reckless. Accidents in time.
Yes.
And yet there is behind it steps of the perfect play. Appearance looked back to its hidden truth and made of difference oneness smiling play like a grand orchestra. This experience I had when I was first time I participated in 2nd December program. So as I entered, this line kept going through my head. 1,000,000 footsteps marching to a single will. There were so many forms. I think some of us have seen the 2nd December program, right? So many different exercise, drills, this, that. But everybody, ultimately, it's woven around her, marching to a single will. And we are trying to attune ourselves. Outwardly, it may look like, to the captain, this or that, but it's attunement to the Divine Mother. And each one who attunes to her helps everybody else to attune. So this was the beauty. Difference, oneness, smiling play. It made all persons fractions of the unique. 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3333. Look at it. They are all fractions of the unique. All. Whatever way we put it, 1 divided by something, it's fraction of the unique. Everything is connected to that. So, it's one. Yet all were beings, secret integers. Each of them had a meaning and a sense and uniqueness. You can't do away with that step. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace. You see, in Krishna's dealings with gopis, you get this bhava. It's captured there. So sometimes some gopis and gops, they are getting angry with Krishna. Some of them are happy with him. And ultimately they even sometimes give, what is called in Hindi ulana. What will be it in English? Some kind of a repartee or something, complaint. You Krishna, you are giving more attention to this and less to. But Krishna smiles and then again, okay, I am also attended. Sweet strife of love. It is not turning into why? Because he is there to take care of everyone. All struggle was turned to a sweet strife of love in the harmonized circle of a sure embrace. You may be abandoned by anyone, but she holds you in her embrace. That's what you ultimately end up discovering. Identities reconciling happiness gave a rich security to difference. Identities reconciling happiness. Which identity? With the divine. So it doesn't matter what's happening outside. It gave a rich security to difference. You don't feel, oh, I am being asked to do this, it's some low work, and I am not asked to visit the room every day, so I am far from divine. People used to have these notions that somebody who is working in Sri Aurobindo's room, mother's room, they are special people. Even now people have these ignorant notions. So I tell them, please read when mother is there, then what they have written about. People used to feel that.
Yes.
And there are number of letters of Sri Aurobindo that if you start judging by these appearances, you will be totally mistaken. There was one of the sadhaks who hardly came, even for darshan he would not go. Someone complained to mother. He says, oh, he doesn't need, he is all the time living in me and he is conscious of me within and all the time I am holding him. Now that is a state of consciousness. So rich security. Look at it. Why? By identities reconciling happiness. Whatever difference may be there. What is the reconciling happiness? We all belong to her. The day this state awakens in us, there is no issue. When we forget it, when we start defining her, limiting her to this or that idea, then the problem starts. But look at this description of this, a truth world. Where is in it harshness and bareness? It's richness. The word is rich. On a meeting line of hazardous extremes, the game of games was played to its breaking point. What is this game of games? Great adventure. Where through self-finding, by divine self-loss, there leaps out unity's supreme delight. Wonderful line. What is this self-finding through divine self-loss? Of course, typical example, classic example is the Lord Himself. Discovering Himself in multiple ways, in multiple beings. So sometimes people say yoga, I say, we are not doing yoga. It is Mother who is doing yoga in everyone. What is she doing yoga for? It is her own discovery in countless ways. One of my favorite bhajans, which I love, its lines are, in Bengali, I'll say in English later. Amar eke Krishna mon bhare na. Ami anant Krishna dube chahi. I'm not satisfied with one Krishna. I want countless Krishnas, infinite Krishnas. This is why creation is there, to multiply delight. That's why the divine has created differences, varieties, multitudes. If He wanted sameness, there would have been only sameness. If He wanted nirvana, there would have been no creation. But the fact that He created rich difference, extremes, completely opposite. And yet, what is it? It is another mask of the same one. One place Sri Aurobindo says that as long as I would fall earlier in sin, I would get up and, I would feel bad, I would curse him and all that. And then I started discovering that who is pushing me? It is He who is pushing me. So then, he says, I looked at him at the corner of my eyes. Oh trickster, you are at your tricks again. But I had to still pardon him. Even when he says that. Because then you discover this mighty play and everything at the end you discover is but one. His play.
Yes.
So that is what we have to discover. But for that, the divine self-loss, this solitary, isolated, my moksha, my this thing, if you want to walk that path, then you don't discover this unity which is spread in creation. That is one path. That is a divine self. Here, divine self-loss. You plunge into it, but keeping that always within you. Where through self-finding by divine self-loss, there leaps out unity's supreme delight. Then you discover the grand unity which is there in creation and the supreme delight, whose blissful, undivided sweetness feels a communality of the absolute. How do you describe this line? Communality. You shouldn't use the word communal and communes, but if you look at the trace, the origin, communal comes from commune. If you look at the roots, what's a commune? Where people come together. When it becomes communal, then when it is organized around one idea and that is the only one, or a religious path, that's how sects come out. But what is this commune? The mother says at one place, I cherish for thee a cult without limits. It is a communality of the absolute. You can't define or limit him by this, my thought or your thought, my opinion, your opinion. It's not a place for opinions. Everybody moves in their own way and they have a right to their opinion, no doubt about it. And that's your path. But it is not that. It is a communality of the absolute, not commonality.
No.
It's communality.
Communality.
It's an amazing word. I think you would.
There was no sob of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things. All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, an authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force. Infallible, leaping from eternity, the moment's thought inspired the passing act. A word, a laughter sprang from silence breast, a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space, a knowledge in the fathomless heart of time.
So, why suffering? Suffering is because of ignorance. What is ignorance? The sense of separateness. That's the origin of suffering. When I cut myself off from the one truth, reality, then suffering will come in one way or the other. It comes intellectually. Oh, world should be thinking, everybody should think like me. Now, if somebody close to me doesn't think like me, I begin to suffer. Why doesn't he share my thoughts? Same with feelings. I feel, that person doesn't feel. Same way, so suffering. Then physical, same thing. Self and not self. All starts with separation. But where there is oneness, how there can be suffering? So that's why she says, there was no sob of suffering anywhere. Experience ran from point to point of joy. When I read those early days, early morning sadhaks, first thing, mother's balcony darshan, 6 o'clock. After balcony darshan, then they are going for whatever work. Then vegetable darshan. Then flower darshan. So at night, final meditation with the mother. So they are running from place to place, but constantly referring back. If you look at the ashram routine, it is organized in such a way to train the consciousness to be centered around the one, so that you don't lose that. Just imagine what kind of life. So experience ran from point to point of joy. These were the moments, high moments like peak. So after having that darshan, how can you be unhappy and have a drowsy face if somebody tells you something? Then you are preparing for the next. Those time people, some of them have told me how they used to, literally run.
Oh, we would. To be at 6:15 darshan, we would run.
Then the vegetable darshan, vegetables would come, mother would come out to see. Then the flower darshan,
Terrace
darshan, when she's walking. So all these, people were constantly looking forward to those things, and who has the time to bother about, those petty things. So this is how the experience runs from point to point of joy when we are in that state of union inwardly with the Lord. Bliss was the pure, undying truth of things. Everything was so joyous, so happy. All nature was a conscious front of God. So what we call as nature, oh, this is a chalna, deception, illusion, terrible, stay away from nature. It was rhythms and expressions of the supreme harmonist. This running reminds me, Amyoda, Amyo Ganguly, that our Sunil Das family.
Yes.
So, he was given the task of, when mother would come in the car, she used to open the door to let mother. She gave a little work to everybody so that they are very happy. It's not that she requires anyone. She can manage by herself everything. But the joy and so, but he doesn't want to lose the sight of the mother when she is coming out and getting into the car. That also he wants to see. So he would be standing. When mother has got into the car, he would run super speed to reach to the playground before she has come to open the door. What a joy, Experience ran from point to point of joy. Literally ran. All nature was a conscious front of God. A wisdom worked in all, self-moved, self-sure, a plenitude of illimitable light, and authenticity of intuitive truth. That is the only authentic thing. Rational truth is a doubtful thing when it comes to spiritual matters and even about the world. That's why you see all rational people will say, no, it may apply in world. But look at the history of science and you will understand that how rational truths are very relative. Why? Because it depends on data gathered by the imperfect senses. So based on a certain data, rationally you arrive at this is truth. After some time, everything which was believed as truth, this solid world, suddenly it is undone. Why? Because new data came in. Everything changes. Then as you proceed, another data comes in. Everything changes. Because rational truth is like that. It is very relative.
And still people want empirical knowledge.
Yes, because naturally there is no access to the higher thing and they don't even believe it's possible. Yes. But the intuitive truth is something that stands. Now look at the example of this because people often say, what is the proof? Rational truth, we have seen how science changes, moving through reason. This doesn't mean reason should not be there. It has its place. Be reasonable, control the vital impulses to, organize your life. Reason has a great place. But when it comes to truth, it fails. But look at intuitive truths. 10,000 years back, a rishi is sitting on mountain top, said, Sarv Khalvidam Brahman. 10,000 years down the line, whether in US, Europe or India, the mystic says the same thing. And he says you can verify it. It doesn't change. It's because it's an intuitive truth. It's seen by the intuitive vision. It won't change. But rational truths will keep changing. When you try to define God, for example, by reason, you create philosophies. It will keep changing and there will be warring sects. But that discovery which only intuition can make, that will not change. So
Sri Aurobindo says, I have been testing more intently than any scientist in his laboratory.
Yes. So this is the authenticity of intuitive truth, a glory and passion of creative force. Why he is bringing now that creative force in countless ways she is working. And she knows what she is doing. So many examples. I remember once Jayanti Bhai, some of these, it's very interesting to meet these people and now thanks you have so many interviews. Otherwise all this would have been lost. So he was telling me that when he came, he asked mother what work I should do. Mother said, you teach French. He said, but mother, I don't know French.
Yeah.
She says, I am telling you, you teach French. Now, Supreme has told. So he learned French. He became a very loved and adorable teacher in the school.
One of the most loved.
Most loved. What she saw, what was needed for him, she knew. Same thing with our Ved Prakashi in dining room. He was an economist, master in economics. So people told him after some time when they saw he is looking after dining room, he said, what work you are doing? Your capacities are not being utilized well.
Yes.
He said, no, mother knows what is best for me. And then he added, half jokingly, that I am an economist, I am the right person to be in dining room. But look at, somebody else, economist, so much, he is educated man. You have put him in charge of dining room where he will supervise cooking and utensil washing. But she knows what is best for each one. So creative force, how it's expressing based on intuitive truth.
And that creative force in him designed the new containers for the rice.
Lots
in
of
which he
work.
put steam in between two metal things, and he could cook 100 kilos of rice in 5 minutes.
Yes. Lots and lots of things.
Incredible. Many
Udar,
advances.
the aeronautical engineer,
Yeah.
creating nut bolts. But much of what you see today, cleaning the tennis ground to build a, fill it with. Now, this creative force, how she works, gives what is needed for each one. And then he adds, infallible, leaping from eternity. It's not a moment's truth. It enters the moment and the play of time. But it is something that sees all the past, present, future. The moment's thought inspired the passing act. Normally, what inspires the passing act? We are not inspired, but we calculate. Should I not? If I do this, moment's thought inspired the passing act. That example of Udarda. He saw a lady in the car stopping, and the driver told ki, Madam, I have to just go inside the ashram, do namas, pranam and come back. This lady kept sitting. So Udarda suddenly had an impulse to say, it's true that it is more difficult to make a rich man turn to God than to make a camel pass through the eye of a needle. But he didn't say. He thought it's very improper and rude. So he told mother, see, I had this impulse, but I controlled myself. Mother said, but I had implanted this thought in you to tell her. If you told her, she may have turned. Sometimes you need to hear, not just sweet things, but the Karela, the bitter gourd. So if you look at life that way, it just changes, A word, a laughter sprang from silence breast, a rhythm of beauty in the calm of space, in knowledge, in the fathomless heart of time. Now, where is harshness and bareness here? This is the home of truth. And look how it continues. All turn to all, without reserves recoil. Now we can see how many reserves we have. Oh, this person. Oh, he is not my type. He is not my language. He is not my status. He is not my state. He is not my, my, as if my world it should be. Tolstoy's son wanting everybody to speak the same language. He said it would be a very dull and boring world. He wanted to unify the world by making everybody speak the same language. It will be a very dull and boring world. So this aspect, you must learn all languages, that's a different thing. But to compel that everybody should speak the same language, it's not the way divine would want to create this world. So look here, it says that all turn to all without reserves recoil. Not like, divide this north, this south, this east, this west. So many kinds of walls in which we live. Sometimes I tell when someone speaks this language, I said we are here to discover the one self in all creation. We are not even able to come out of our statehood. Forget about, discovering.
And reserves
recoil. Oh, this person, I don't gel with this person. Precisely that person is there. Because you don't gel and you have to learn how to gel.
Yes.
By discovering the supreme glue which is in all.
Yes.
Gel. Whatever it is, mother's child. I had this experience very interestingly in Pune. Actually, I had this big, when I read about Dilip Kumar Roy, and I heard that he left, mother and they couldn't accept. I said, I'm not going to read his book. So, this is a beautiful book, by the way, Sri Aurobindo came to me. But I looked at the title from that lens. Oh, he thinks very great of himself, huh? Sri Aurobindo came to me. So, all that, somebody told me it's a lovely book. I said, I'm not going to read it. I am not going to read somebody who has, thought like that about mother. Then what happened, suddenly I got a society, someone requested me that someone means in the admin, they needed cassettes of Dilip Kumar Roy. I was in Pune where his ashram was there and people had asked me, I said, I am not going there. Now I had to go because they couldn't find anywhere and there is no other place, you have to go there, that's why they have asked me to go. So I went. I said, Abhi, it's mother's work. I have to break all my notions. So of course, his samadhi, Indraji's samadhi and no mother, only Sri Aurobindo and all kinds of confusion. But what I almost, I would say, heard, I mean, mother's very personal now, suddenly I have started speaking about it, was that he whom I have accepted, who are you to refuse and reject? Yes. And tears in my eyes as I recapture that state. He whom I have accepted, who are you to refuse and reject? I said, how stupid and silly. Lord has showered, mother has told him, we are here only to please Sri Aurobindo. Yes. She kept a room for 14 years, even after he has gone away, that his soul comes every night to rest there. And how stupid of me to judge him. We don't know what is the relation between his soul and the...
In the early 60s, I found the book Sri Aurobindo Came to Me, and it cost me 1 rupee. And there he mentions mother quite often.
Yeah, he went through that for quite some time.
For quite some time.
Though later on, of course, all things happened, he even wrote to Nehru and all that. It's very sad, and he realized the tragic mistake. It is said that toward the end he realized, like Barinda, but said after all she is mother.
Or like Harendranath Charapalli.
Oh, his case is of course. But Dilip Kumar Roy, when he was called in Kolkata to install Sri Aurobindo's relics, he just couldn't speak. He was a erudite speaker and music par excellence. Yes. He would just cry and all that he could say is, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. And he shared that, I have made a big mistake. But she is the mother. Same with Barinda. I know that it's my ego which made me come away.
Yes.
But she is Jagat Janani. She is compassionate. So that's where when we look at life from that standpoint. And when you look at it in a vaster sense, whom has the divine rejected? Look, even the mother, that's when one enters that state where it's not to become indiscriminate and not know what is what. But here it's about rejecting people. It's not about not knowing where one is, what movement is what. So there is a beautiful line in the mother where he describes Maheshwari. And he says, even the Asuras and Rakshasas and Pishachas are her children. If Pishachas are also her children, who are we to tell, oh, this fellow.
And mother says it.
Yeah.
They too are my children.
There, Sri Aurobindo has declared it so openly. Then you discover a different way. And okay, we don't have those eyes, so we may forget, but we have to keep reminding and reorienting ourselves. And that's what is revealed here, that all turn to all without reserves recoil, a single ecstasy without a break. Then it's not like, oh, I'm meeting my friend, I'm so happy. Oh, this fellow, I have to spend time with him. Here there is constant ecstasy. Love was a close and thrilled identity in the throbbing heart of all that luminous life. So love is not I love you. It's a identity. Meaning thereby, whom do I love? I love myself. But in the deepest sense, highest sense. Sri Aurobindo says that in his poem Immortal Love. He says that if I loved you only for your face, it will not last long. If I loved you for sweet voice and your heart of Ruth, time might pursue, might reach. But I have loved for thyself indeed. Myself with myself I have snared. Change I exceed and am for time prepared. Oh I love myself in the highest sense. Or the divine in the person, if you want to put it as a bhakta.
But
then whom are you ensnared with?
yeah.
And then you leave it, Lord, you are the one. You ultimately end up.
Without loving ourselves, how can we love anyone else?
But look at here the thrilled identity. Why? Because you discover the same one. All masks, but it's the same one.
Christ says, love thy neighbor
Ah.
as thyself.
Yes, that's how it. And that's what Sri Aurobindo says is the basis of friendship also. He speaks of the basis of love is this, and the basis of friendship also is the self in you reaching out to the self, same self in another. That is the true basis of friendship. A universal vision that unites is sympathy of nerve replying to nerve, hearing that listens to thought's inner sound. How much chaos, because you said like this. When did I say? 5 years back. But what is thought's inner sound? The state of consciousness. I didn't mean it like this. I meant good. Thought's inner sound, not what is expressed outside. And follows the rhythmic meanings of the heart. See this. One knows that it's not outward, but the sense in the heart. I am reminded of that story in Ramayana where, Mata Sita tells Lakshman that you go, your brother is in distress because Marich has played a game. While dying, he suddenly says, Rama, Rama. So he says that, your brother is in trouble. Lakshman says, I am confident. Nobody on this earth can touch my brother. He is unparalleled. But she keeps on. Then at one point she says, oh, you are eyeing upon me. Something like that. That's why you are not listening and going. I am telling you your brother is in danger. So then Lakshmana goes, putting the Lakshman Rekha. Now why Sita would say that? Now it's interesting because she has assumed an avidyamay form. That is, but also because that is the need of the Leela. Lakshman will not become a participant in the Leela because in his wisdom, he is not doing what is needed to be done. So divine can even assume a most ignorant form for the sake of the grand Leela. Lakshman has to go. How dare Ravana come near? And she steps out of. So you see, it is that meaning of the heart. A touch that needs not hands to feel, to clasp, where there the native means of consciousness and heightened the intimacy of soul with soul. So we need instruments. The body is an instrument of the soul and you need touch and holding and grasp are a way to communicate. Sri Aurobindo used the word an imperfect means to communicate what's going on inside you. Because love wants that intimacy and union. So it uses these inadequate means that love uses. That's how he describes. Inadequate means. Some kind of contact. But here one didn't need any senses. Soul contact is there, but there is also a means of contact which doesn't need these.
I think when Satyavan and Savitri are together, he says the imperfect.
Yeah, that's where he describes
means,
love.
Yes.
And then he says that the imperfect means and signs that love must use.
That love must use, yes.
Limb cries for answering limb.
Yes.
So that's where he says, and because you want that deep integral intimacy, but how do you do it? So you try it with the body. And body is a very imperfect instrument. That's the whole problem. But there you didn't need, because consciousness can reach out. How the Divine Mother knew about and knows about all of us, much more than what we know, because it is not through these means. A grand orchestra of spiritual powers, a diapason of soul interchange, harmonized a oneness deep, immeasurable. This oneness, as we can see, is beyond anything that the mind can fathom. In these new worlds projected, he became a portion of the universal gaze, a station of the all-inhabiting light, a ripple on a single sea of peace. Now Ashupati has entered this world, he is identified with it, and he discovered that in this world, each one becomes an aspect, a mode of manifestation of the divine. And when we discover that, then there is no quarrel, no competition, no ambition. Each one is meant to express one aspect or mode of the divine. And that is the beauty of this world, which he has now discovered. His mind answered to countless communing minds. His words were syllables of the cosmos speech. His life a field of the vast cosmic stir. So now he has become so vast that his mind is communing with unseen entities. And what he's expressing is not just my view, my desire, my thought, but something which is coming from the vast cosmic store and must reach out. So there is no calculation, preparation or intellectual process. There it comes, that line. He felt the footsteps of a million wills moving in unison to a single will.
There it is, yes.
And the line that has flashed to me was marching, because that's the place. So he felt so many, this direction, that direction. If you go in an ocean current, from the surface you can say, oh, this wave is going this way, this is going this way, that way. Jump into the ocean, see, there is only one direction it goes. Away from the shore, away from the safety, away from the narrow bounds, towards the fathomless, because there is no other direction. Till you can go, it will take you, otherwise you will be drowned. There also the sand will drag you, push you. But there is only one direction. This is the original Vedanta. That all without exception are going in this mighty journey towards the one. Nobody. Even if you try to swim against the current, sea will carry you. Only you will feel strained, you will feel tired, exhausted, suffer. But sea has only one direction. That is, take everybody towards its heart. That's how this passage had started. As if a sea exploring its own depths. Which is a beautiful image. That from the outermost to the inmost, it's one life. That's what he's experiencing now. A stream, ever newborn that never dies, caught in its thousandfold currents' ravishing flow, with eddies of immortal sweetness thrilled. So as he is going through different waves, and this is so nice.
Yes.
Eddies, in Ganges, the closest experience I have, which is far from what people have, is rafters would have. But I have that what is called as white water rafting. So you sit in the boat and boat goes through. So in Haridwar they have 3 currents which are a bit turbulent. So you are rafting, then you have one current and suddenly the boat rocks and you rock with it and you have the thrill of as if it will turn. Then you'll say, then it stabilizes. Then there is a second one. It's a little more turbulent. Then you feel nothing. Then the third one comes. It's almost like the boat is going to capsize. Mm-hmm. And he tells their life jackets, if you want, you can jump. So of course, everybody jumped except me in the boat. So they asked me, don't you want to take the joy? I said, somebody has to be there to pull you guys out. And if you are lost, to say how many were there. Everybody jumped.
The doctor speaks.
I'm not going to jump. I'm going to do the number keeping. Okay, yes, come. I was actually doing that. This fellow, where is he? Then he comes back. So it's fun. Now you look at the sweet, each eddy, which is a turbulent space, but it only added to the sweetness and the joy. So this, with eddies of immortal sweetness thrilled, he bore, coiling through his members as they passed, calm movements of interminable delight. Now comes a master line.
The master
The
line.
bliss of a myriads who are one. The bliss of oneness becomes the bliss of multiplicity. That is the goal of creation if you want to put it as a goal. And why truth consciousness? Because only on that basis you can experience this bliss of myriads. But creation is meant for delight, for experiencing the delight of oneness changing into a delight of multiplicity. But all this is a passage. This suffering, then discovering the truth, the basis, then you discover that totality. So we'll stop here. It's so wonderful. We'll continue tomorrow.